sold a dream that it's gonna sort your shit out, and then hey, that dream just turns to fucking charcoal or to ash or whatever it is, right? Hey, massive welcome back to the channel. It's Angus here, and pretty stoked in this video to be dropping some flames. Imagine there's flames here. Flames of real talk around why just eating healthy will never get you to your dream body.
Crying in the corner, huh? Mind if I join you? Oh, good.
Now, what sparked this video was basically some various conversations that I've been having with people in my business page and in my personal Facebook page and sometimes on social media, with people asking me either of two questions. First one being, Angus, I'm eating healthy, I'm not losing weight. Second one being, oh, okay, cool, what you're saying is pretty sick, but what I'm just gonna do is I'm just gonna go and eat healthy, and I've already lost a kilo from doing so I'm just gonna keep doing that and I'll see what happens. So yeah, I'm gonna drop some flames of insight into that cranium of yours. I'm gonna fill you with basically, yeah, the whole paradigm that is why just eating healthy will never get you to your goal, and yeah, give you some suggestions in terms of how you can be dominating and moving forward. So strap yourself in. If this video is of value to you, come to the end, give it a like, and if you want to see more cool shit like this, subscribe, and yeah, that way you don't waste time doing dumb fuck stuff that you see, yeah, keeping so many people stuck from achieving results remotely close to this guy over here, aka me. Let's get stuck into the flames, fam. Bring on the knowledge. So boys and girls, the iPad is fired up. What we're going to be talking about first is what it means to actually be healthy. Because as per the sick introduction of this video, you would have heard me touch on the fact that a lot of people seem to think that they're already eating healthy, and obviously wondering why they're not losing weight or why they're not making mad gains in progress, right? So what we're going to touch on first is what it actually means to be healthy, because chances are is that you're actually not, right? Now, it's actually really common. Yeah, I'd probably say about 3/4 of the time when I'm taking on a new coaching client, you know, they seem to think that they're healthy prior to working with me, and then we do some analysis of their, you know, their habits, their eating choices and shit like that, and then we realize, oh, you're actually deficient in quite a few things and actually not healthy. So let's look at what it actually means to be healthy. So we've got here a sick Venn diagram, yeah, so this is going to be a really good illustration to help you guys to understand what's going to allow you to be able to get this middle part, which is the sweet spot. And if someone isn't getting this sweet spot, well, then naturally what's going to happen over time is that there's going to be, well, gaps in their overall health, and as a result, that's where lifestyle-related diseases can come in, unexplained, you know, muscle loss and weight loss, and weight gain, and a range of other shit. So first one that takes up this circle here is protein. Now, the average person is actually protein deficient, meaning that they don't get remotely close to enough protein, right? Now, you should be getting in, depending on context of goal, 0.8 grams all the way up to 2 grams of protein per pound that you weigh, all right? Naturally, the purpose of protein is basically so that you're getting in amino acids, right? Because the thing is that essential, so I'll put here, essential amino acids, right? These you can't really get from anything else. So in other words, people say, gotta get my protein, bro, gotta make those gains, right? It's really saying that, like, yeah, you can't get those amino acids from anywhere else, right? So in other words, yeah, basic protein's important if you give a shit about preserving your muscle, and if you want to be able to have any chance of feeling satiated and full from the stuff that you're eating, right? Because that's what protein brings, nourishment, and it's obviously going to be building blocks for repair and stuff like that for your cells. Not for your cells, for your muscles, which are obviously being stimulated and worn and torn and stuff like that from all your mad lifting efforts in the gym, right? So the average person is incredibly protein deficient. I find this so often, more commonly in chicks, but then with guys, when I'm looking at basically, well, how they're meeting their protein intakes, you know, they're hammering a heap of shakes and shit like that, or they, say for example, are only hammering a heap of chicken, right? So this is where you're going to be careful, because if you're only getting your protein from, say for example, one source, you can develop intolerances and that sort of shit. All right. So that's our first component of this Venn diagram. The second component is plants. Right. So what I mean by plants is things that you would classify as whole foods, right? So think stuff that, you know, comes from Mother Nature. So we've got fruits, we've got vegetables, we've got root veggies, so like shit that's in the ground. We've got legumes. To a degree, you know, it's debatable, but you can classify seeds within here. Anything else I've forgotten? No. Now, if you're wanting to clue in on exactly how much you need, obviously you can check out the National Dietary Guidelines, right? But usually like a ballpark that I set for my clients, and believe it or not, like, actually this is what we're going to cover here. But yeah, I'd probably say that like as a chick, if you're getting about, let's say for example, 500 grams of plants per day, and as a guy, as close to 1 kg as you can. This is going to help basically cover you from a baseline point of view, because what's going to happen there is that by you getting enough plants, you're going to be getting insufficient micros, right? Micronutrients, vitamins, and then minerals, right? And obviously because a lot of people are lazy, this is where they figure out from doing some blood work and stuff, and it's like, oh shit, I'm deficient in this, and therefore better go and get, you know, this pill from old mate Chemist Warehouse, you know what I mean? So it's like, by you getting in a sufficient amount of plants, and by you getting in a range of, you know, obviously the nutrients and the goods that come from doing so, this is going to allow you to, because it's kind of like that acts as your body's then full ability to be able to process and use the macros that you consume, right? So it's like if someone has a shit intake of micros, their body is going to have a shit ability to be able to utilize fully the macronutrients that you consume. So in other words, there's people that are like, oh, macros, bro, fuck yeah, but then they don't give a shit about micronutrients and plants. So it's incredibly important that if you want to be healthy, well then you give a shit about plants. And it's also very common that basically, yeah, I'll actually be surprised if someone, say for example, gets in 3 serves of overall fruit and veg per day, right? It's actually, yeah, a rarity that I actually see someone that is eating that amount when it comes to kicking off coaching with me, right? Fun fact. Now this part here, this is basically insoluble, and then we've got soluble fiber, all right? Fiber is found in, whoops, I spelled fiber wrong. Fiber is found in basically all this shit over here, right? And then in terms of soluble and insoluble, that comes down to how the body will break it down. Now the idea of getting a good mixture of both, and therefore this crosses into this one here in terms of variety, right? The idea of getting in a good mix of both in terms of, like, say for example, you'll be getting in a different sort of fiber from fruits and veg than you would from, say for example, the fiber that is found within certain pastas and breads and Quest bars and shit like that, you know what I mean? So the more variety that you have, that means the less chance that you'll have of getting any intolerances, and all that sort of shit. Plus it means that your enjoyment is going to be nice and high. Because what I find is, like, a lot of people box themselves into kind of like rules and just like their nice little fucking list of, you know, the 6 foods that they can eat, you know, and obviously when enjoyment is so low and restriction is so high, this is when someone is going to have a high likelihood of binging or creating kind of like what we call a binge and restrict cycle, where they, you know, restrict and they have a bit of a YOLO. So obviously that counts as the, you know, the binge, and then so it's like they create a bit of a feedback loop in terms of habits around restriction and then YOLOing. Okay. Now this third one we're going to be looking at is basically nice and simple, and that's water, right? Literally, water is the miracle pill that everyone's searching for. And as chicks, you should be getting bare minimum at least 2 liters, and for most guys, your bare minimum will be 3 liters. The purpose of water is so that you're obviously hydrated. If you're hydrated, all your you know, organs and all of your sort of like internal systems and even your cells, right, can do their job properly, right? Obviously, if someone is dehydrated, this causes an internal stress on the body. It kind of fucks up your body's ability to be able to process and do certain things, and naturally that's going to correlate to you having headaches and feel stressed and fuck with your hormones and shit like that. So it's like, yeah, people often using kind of like external shit in terms of supplements and pills and just quick fix stuff, but then missing out on all of these, right? So obviously as a chick, right, if you're not getting in that amount of water, sort your shit out. If you're a guy and you're not getting this sort of water, once again, sort your shit out too. Be aware that you can be adding things like, tea bags, obviously pimp up the taste of water, or you can be like, adding, you can go to Woolies, you can get these little diffuser things that you can add to water to kind of make it taste nice. So in other words, it's not really too hard to get water in, you just need to build a habit out of doing so. And if I were you, get some in upon waking, get a glass in between each of your meals, have some water with most of your meals, and then obviously the water that you consume while you're lifting, you know what I mean? So here we have what it actually means to be healthy. All right, now what we're gonna look at next is the context of relevant to the intro of the video as to, well, why just eating healthy isn't gonna get you to your dream body. Yeah, the trophy, so let's draw a bit of a trophy here. Hey, trophy, sick, fucking try wizard tournament, yo, you're a wizard, Harry Potter, #1, yay. So fam, I hope you enjoyed part 1. Now as we move into part 2, what's important to understand is that, yes, it's awesome that you are dialing in on these things that we've just covered, right? But the thing is that by you just dialing in on them, it is not gonna be enough to be able to get you to where you wanna get to. Because yes, what it does is it basically forces you to give a shit about the quality of the food that you're eating, right? But then where the gap is that you're not educating yourself around basically where things should be at from a quantity point of view. Now what I mean by that is basically your body requires a certain amount of energy for fat loss, right? It requires a certain amount of energy to basically maintain, right? And it also requires a certain amount of energy for you to gain weight, right? Whether that be actual fat or whether that be muscle, right? So what happens is that for people who are just like, fuck yeah, I'm eating healthy, I'm giving a shit about fruits and vegetables, bro, it's sick, I'm not craving sugar, I'm, this sort of stuff, that's cool. And this is kind of if we think of it as a timeline point of view, right? You focusing on just eating healthy and dialing on these things here is kind of the first leg, if you will, or the first staircase, right? So it's fuck yeah, awesome, you figured out how to eat healthy. But it's let's say that over here is the trophy. So let's draw a bit of a trophy here. Hey, trophy, sick, fucking try wizard tournament, yo, you're a wizard, Harry Potter, #1, yay. So it's for you to get over to that trophy, right? By you just thinking that you're going to get there by eating healthy is thinking that you can just jump all this shit here that you need to learn and to get down pat to be able to get there. This is stuff that I teach to my clients. Once we've got the bases down pat, we take them through a range of different phases based on my fuck dieting formula, right? But ultimately it's kind of for someone to be able to get all the way over there, right? You need to focus on a few certain things, and one of them is understanding food quantity, right? Because if your goal is, say for example, fat loss, right, which I'd imagine it is, given the nature of the sort of average person who watches my videos is, they give a shit about trying to lose fat and to look great naked and stuff like that. So if your goal is fat loss, right, if all you're doing is trying to focus on, eat more protein and eat more plants and stuff like that, but you have no clue about, from a quantity point of view, what's probably going to likely happen is that you will be, without even knowing, eating at maintenance or gaining weight. And this is where, as the saying goes, where someone's saying I'm eating healthy but I'm not losing weight, well then chances are is that you're actually eating enough calories to maintain your weight, right? Meaning you're not actually creating any sort of deficit. Now if you're not really aware of how a deficit works, it's kind of let's say for example your body requires this much energy to maintain your weight, so in other words total daily energy expenditure, right? Your goal should be to kind of eat, let's say 10 to 20% below that. And what that creates is a relative calorie deficit. Or what could be happening, right, which is kind of rare, but what can happen is that you're trying to eat healthy and all this sort of shit, but you are consciously trying to keep your quantity of food really small. What could be happening is you're putting yourself into what's called an absolute deficit, right? And this is kind of let's say for example, anywhere between 30 to 50% or more below that TDE mark. And this is where things get dangerous, because what you got to realize is that your body will pick up and adapt to basically everything that you're doing. So if all you're doing is just restricting it heaps despite the fact while trying to eat #healthy, you're not actually healthy in this scenario, because you're eating too much below how much your body requires to maintain. So obviously what's important and what makes sense is to just learn how energy works and master what's called thermodynamics. Because if you can at least learn how this works, right, and combine it with basically all this stuff over here in terms of giving a shit about protein, giving a shit about plants, giving a shit about water, well then if you combine that with a few other side things, like say for example managing your stress, right, giving a shit about sleep, giving a shit about stretching, like doing like self-love type shit, looking after your mindset, right? If you can be doing things like that, well then this is where not only will you feel $1 million, right, from a happiness point of view and be able to perform and stuff like that in the gym and in your, you know, relationship and in just whatever else you apply yourself to, right? What's going to naturally happen is that you will then be able to control how you look through the fact that you're understanding thermodynamics. Because from a nutshell, what I need you to understand is that by you nailing all these things, this allows you to be able to, you know, obviously control various aspects of health, right? But then at most, what this will allow you to do is to control how you feel, right? If you want to control how you look, well then this is where this stuff over here that I just expressed comes into play, all right? And for a lot of people, they don't focus on that. And then because you know, they think that they're doing well from a health point of view and obviously results stall, this is where basically they get into stuff that's basically going to band-aid the underlying problem and get into, you know, subs and just shit that's not going to really solve anything, and think things that say like shred or skinny and, you know, this sort of shit, right? Like all that's going to do is basically just whatever cash you pump into it, it's going to basically make it into a nice little ball and then light it on fire. And in other words, you've been sold a dream that it's going to sort your shit out, and then that dream just turns to fucking charcoal or to ash or whatever it is, right? So from a nutshell point of view, what you understand is it's like these are the things that matter for getting healthy. And then if you can get someone to teach you how to be able to nail quantity point of view, how energy works, how calories works, how to be able to put yourself safely into a, you know, a fat loss oriented scenario or a maintenance scenario or a muscle building scenario, or when it's time to do things like reverse dieting, or when it's time to do things like having, you know, refeeds and you know, things like what's called diet breaks and things like that. Like if you can have someone teach you how this all works, it's going to help make the journey so much more easier for you, and therefore not only will you be able to automate your progress to a varying degree, but not only will you be able to do that, but it's going to help to get you to where you want to be so much smoother. Now, this is something that I teach in way more depth in my actual coaching process. I believe heavily in helping my clients be educated around how the game works, and basically not just treat them as a numbnuts where it's like, hey bro, go do this. Like, yes, I tell them what to do, but I teach them the why behind it and the how behind how it correlates to the whole bigger picture. All right. So if you're someone who knows that, yeah, you're kind of struggling in the game, like old mate screenshot who I showed earlier, or, you know, you kind of feel that you're in that earlier scenario of the timeline, but you don't know how to keep evolving. If I were you, click one of the links below in my description, and that way you can check out, yeah, some more of my free shit. You can see more of what my coaching's about, and yeah, just my mission behind all that. Obviously, why I do videos like this on YouTube is just to be able to bring people into the world of what I do. And then actually, obviously, with things like coaching and stuff like that, people pay me to help them to solve their problems, as to basically, well, freeing them from dieting, teaching them how to eat again, and basically loving themselves, loving food, and being able to control how they look, feel, and function. So it's pretty sick, and if that's of interest to you, check out those links, as I said. If you want to learn some more of what I'm about, follow my journey on social media. My handles are just below. And please, if you have any questions around what we've spoken about today, keep the conversation going, drop a comment below. And if you're new to the channel, definitely go back into the upload section of the channel, check out some of my uploads, check out some of my success stories from clients I've been working with, check out some other food eating videos and stuff. You'll be in for a sick treat. And yeah, if you're a returning subscriber, drop the video some love and stay tuned for some more sick videos to come, fam. Peace out from Angus Beef.